stepdad who to marry
No, you can't harm
because she had two young daughters that needed to be raised,
Back down.
and it was a friend of hers. And
Oh.
I didn't want to be around to mess things up when they got married,
Uh-huh.
so I joined the Navy.
Okay.
And it was peacetime when I joined the Navy. But by the time I got out of basic training, the Korean War had started.
Okay.
So we'd go. I flew over from San Francisco to Tokyo. Well, we stopped in Honolulu,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't remember, a little island before we got to Tokyo, and then stopped in Tokyo. Then I took a train from Tokyo to Sasebo, Japan. And when I went through we took the train, and it went through Hiroshima, where they dropped the atomic bomb.
The A-bomb, yeah.
And there
Were people still allowed in Hiroshima at that time, or was it still kind of no one goes there
no,
because
there
it's
was
radio?
nothing there.
There was nothing
It was
there.
just the only building that was left standing in Hiroshima after they dropped the bomb was the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And they had to put on special clothes and go in and tear it down because you couldn't go in there because of the radiation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
You guys get it all worked out there?
was in the Navy for 4 years.
Then after that.
And I got out a little bit early because I would go to Korea for 9 months. Then we'd come back to the States for 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
and back to Korea for 9 months, and just back and forth. And they were getting ready to leave again about 3 months before I got out, so they give me an early discharge.
Did you mind going back and forth, or was that frustrating?
Oh no, it wasn't. I loved Hawaii, and I didn't like it in Korea because it was. I never got on the ground there, but it was so cold till the salt water was freezing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean we had the lifelines around the ship were about an inch,
About an inch?
and it go all the way around the ship. And had
Mhm.
stuff to hold it in place, and ice would get on the lifelines, and they'd be about that big around, and they'd get on the front of the gun mount, and we'd have to get out of the gun mount and knock the ice off the gun mount. But we would every 3 minutes, 24 hours a day, they would fire around for harassment.
For harassment.
If they had a target, then we'd fire till we destroy the target.
No, these targets are coming in from boots on the ground, from troops that are already on the ground fighting the Koreans, or is it aerial reconnaissance?
It was people that was on the ground.
Oh, okay.
They'd radio us and tell us where the target was,
Okay.
and
And you provide effective fire.
yeah. And I was sitting in the gun mount. Would set 4 hours in the gun mount, 4 hours off, 4 hours back in the gun mount, just 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day.
Yeah, just for the whole 9 months. Except we'd go into Sasebo, Japan, or Yokosuka, Japan, and we'd go in for 3 days. And in 3 days, out of 9 months, out of 3 months, a month, we'd get off the ship once,
Okay.
and then right back out again.
Now the shells, were more shells brought in, or did the ship have
Oh no,
a sustainable amount of shells?
We had I don't know, hundreds of
Just shelves and
but-
shelves and shelves
but
are
when
shells,
we
huh?
got low, they would send a ship
Oh,
out that would
okay.
give us more ammunition.
And I remember you telling me that the empty canisters used to go in a big pit in front of the gun on the outside on the deck, I believe.
Yeah, we used to. Can't remember exactly where we put them, but we'd put them back in the gun mount,
Yeah.
and I'd
But after they fired, they'd
Yeah.
exit out into a
Yeah.
gated off area, right? Yeah, okay.
and then get out of the Navy after, well, not quite 4 years, but 3 years and 9 months, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no work, so I joined the Army.
And is that when you went to Germany?
Beg your pardon?
Is that when you went to Germany?
Yes. I went to basic training, and they give you a test, and they made went to aircraft mechanic school, and after I got out of school, they sent me to Germany, and I was in Germany, a little over 2 years,
A little over 2 years.
and
What was your favorite parts of Germany?
I liked all of it. People were friendly. They, and just it was a nice place.
Yeah.
And in the Army, I did stuff that I'd have gotten a lot of trouble for if I did it when I was in the Navy. And they didn't care. They just, hey, do what you want to do. We don't care.
Yeah.
And they considered me.
So what were your orders?
My orders?
Mm-hmm. When going over to Germany and doing your stuff, what was the whole directive like?
Well, we could go out if we wasn't on duty, but we had to be back by 10 o'clock at night. But I'd stay out all night drinking, and nobody cared. And we would go to the beer hall, and where they serve
Mm-hmm.
alcohol and beer, and it was 5 cents a can
5
for a
cents
bottle
a
of
can.
beer.
Nice.
And one of my friends was the bartender in there, and he told me, he says, if you want whiskey, he says, I can give that to you free. He says, I'm allowed 50% spillage. So I said, but I says, no, I don't want whiskey. I like beer. But when I first started drinking beer, I didn't like it either. But after a while, if you drink enough of it, you acquire a taste for it.
Yes, I do know that from
And,
experience.
And I smoked. I'd smoke a carton of cigarettes a week. When I was in the Navy, it was 99 cents a carton.
What
And
was your wage? How much were you getting like weekly? Like how much money would they give you weekly? Like your payday? How much money did they give you?
Well, we'd get paid once a month in the Navy, and it would be if I remember correct, I made $90 a month.
$90 a month.
And in Germany, I never got higher than a seaman, though, in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And in Germany, I made staff sergeant in less than 2 years. And we would go out. We'd have a break time. We'd go to work at 8 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, we'd have a break, and we'd go out and drink beer. And go back, after our break.
Mm-hmm.
And work on the aircraft till 11.
11
Yeah.
at night or 11?
11 in the morning.
11 in the morning.
Then we'd go for lunch break. If you wanted lunch, or if you wanted to go out and drink beer, you could do that too. So we used to go out and drink beer, and then at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock, we'd go back to work. 2 o'clock was another break.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go drink beer again, and go
So
back to work in the hangar.
so Germany was a lot of beer drinking.
Yes, it was. And I'd drink 30 to 35 bottles of beer every night,
Wow.
and I was considered the best mechanic they had. I mean, but if I worked on an airplane, I didn't get paid to fly it. They do now,
Yeah.
but I'd fly in it just to let them know I did a good job on it, and it was it was good duty, and they really treated me like a king in the Army. I mean, I could do anything I wanted to do, any time of the day or night. They didn't care.
So, staff sergeant, is that what you?
Well,
Was that the highest rank you achieved?
yes.
Okay.
It was E5,
E5.
and it went up to E7 was the highest at
Mhm.
that time. Now it goes up to E9, or
Okay.
maybe even E10 now. I'm not sure, but
What does that symbolize? What does the E series symbolize? Like, what is the difference between an E5 and an E7?
well, it's an it starts out at E1 as a private.
Okay.
E2 is a private first class. E3
Oh, okay. Is it corporal?
E3 is E E3 is a corporal,
Corporal. Then lance
and there
corporal.
was no
right?
E4.
Oh, okay.
Went
No
from E3
E4.
to E5. What? Yeah, there was an E4 too, but I
So it's just another way of naming one of your
Yes.
ranking.
but
Okay.
I was in basic training,
You scream at any privates?
and I went from in the Army. I went from
E1 to
I
E5?
made TFC
Oh.
in private first class in while I was still going to school.
Okay.
And another guy was supposed to get it, and he did something they didn't like, so they took it away and gave it to me. And then when I got in Germany, you're supposed to be. I made corporal right away when I got to Europe, and you're supposed to be a corporal at that time at least a year before you could make another, before they could promote you again. But they overrode it and gave it to me anyway.
Okay.
So, but I liked Germany real well. The people treated us good. Just a good life over there.
So as a sergeant, did you ever get after any privates
Did I?
or anything lower? As a sergeant, did you have anyone lower than you, like the privates and the corporal? Did they have to listen to your directive or?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and we had the full guard duty. I don't 3 or 4 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
and but I had he was a master sergeant in charge of where I worked all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and he would go into the office where they kept all the books, and he would make it look like I had stood guard duty the night before, And so I got away with without standing much guard duty.
Is it when you do guard duty? Was it just like you held a flashlight and you walked around the gate, or was it an armed patrol? Or
We didn't. We had a light on our
helmets?
helmet,
Okay.
but we didn't use it. You don't turn it on unless there's something going wrong.
Okay.
But we had we had a gun, a rifle.
Yeah, a rifle.
Yeah, and it had
10 bullets.
I
Probably?
think it was 10 bullets
Yeah.
in it. And when you turn the rifle in, you're supposed to turn the bullets in with them.
I'm guessing it was probably an M14 or something like that.
Yeah.
It looked like one of those old World War II carbines.
Yeah, it was the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But when you turn in the rifle, you're supposed to turn in the bullets with it. But I forgot them.
You forgot your bullets?
In my belt.
Oh,
my
okay.
rifle belt. And I took it off and put it back in the drawer and went to. I just moved it one day and I seen the bullets in there, so I took them over to the office and there was even nobody there. I just laid them on the desk. And
Did you ever? Obviously, you've fired the gun before. You've probably fired the gun several times through practices.
well, mostly through basic training.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise,
So you never fired the gun past basic training, you would say?
no, we didn't.
Okay.
But I was told that if I seen anything going on, shoot to stop it. Right? Shoot to kill.
Okay.
Don't do anything to
Don't
stop what's
hesitate.
going
Just
on. Yeah.
just shoot it.
But fortunately, there was never, and I didn't pull much guard duty for the.
So how did you
Sorry.
wind up being stuck in the lake? The lake you were stationed at?
Oh, it was an aircraft. The buildings were kind of rounded off,
Mm-hmm.
and they had huge front doors.
When you say they're rounded off, they look kind of like a dome?
Yes,
Okay.
and the runway was covered in 3 inches of water, so it looked like a lake.
So it looked like a lake. Yeah, I
But,
remember you telling me
all
that
the pilots knew
Mm-hmm.
where it was.
And this is this was manufactured during Nazi Germany, right?
Yes,
The Nazis used
yeah,
this
it
to
was-
go in and out.
And it was the only place I know of in Germany that didn't get bombed during World War II, because it looked like a lake,
Mhm.
and the rounded off buildings, they were hard to spot. Because
Okay.
most of the bombing was done at night.
So the buildings were probably painted
Yeah.
like the landscape
Yes.
around it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That's pretty smart. I'm not gonna lie. Seems pretty smart.
They were intelligent people. The Germans were.
Did that building still have markings like the swastikas and the Iron Eagle around it at the airfield?
It was not just a military airport.
Oh,
It was a civilian airport too.
okay.
And but there was only one place in Germany that they tore all of swastikas down, wrote them all out except on one base, and there was one left, and they just kept it for, I don't know if it's probably tore down now, but it was just as a reminder.
As a reminder.
Yeah.
And it was at a military base that
Yes,
one was
yes.
kept at.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was at an army base, but it was several miles from where we were.
So being an American speaking English and stuff like that, did you ever have trouble with like the language barrier between the Germans and yourself?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
never understood most of them, and with all the beer we drank in the Army also, they didn't have refrigerators. They had ice boxes, but they would put there was a lake running right behind where we were stationed,
Okay.
we used to go out and drink a lot, and they'd keep our American beer down in the water to keep it cold, and they'd pull it out
Oh,
of the
because
water, clean
Germans
it
like
off real
warm
good.
beer and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the Germans like their beer at room temperature,
Mm-hmm.
and we liked ours cold. But it was good duty, and I enjoyed being over there. It was, it was great. And when it come time for me to get out, they told me, it says, if you'll re-enlist, we'll give you the next stripe that comes down, and make me a.
A lieutenant?
No, I would have been
Is that Parker snoring?
Yes.
see, I would have been a sergeant first class. I think it
Sergeant
was.
first class.
And then after that, it was master sergeant.
Okay.
I was E5, and it went up to E7. So.
And you didn't do it because you were just tired of being in the
Well,
Army?
I'd been overseas for 7 years,
Okay.
and I decided I wanted to come to the States for a while. And so came back, and
Met Joe?
yes, and then we got married, and we've been together ever since. So
Yeah, I believe you said you guys met in a bar?
yes,
A bar? And
matter of
then
fact, she picked me up in the bar.
she picked you up in a bar.
Yeah, she met me, and they left. I was talking to her mother, me and my youngest brother, and they left, and she looked at her mother and she says, "That's the cutest little guy I ever saw in my life." She says, "Go back and get him." And so she did, and we went to another bar where we could dance, and I never danced a step in my life at that time. But then from there, after that bar closed, then we went to a bowling alley, and she had to leave. It seemed to me like about 7 o'clock, and go home and take a shower and get dressed and go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And
The bowling alleys back then, they still had people pin sitting, right? They.
oh yeah, yeah,
You had somebody
Yeah.
sitting up your pins after you
Uh-huh.
knocked them down, huh?
yeah. But it's been a great life, and I'm
Yeah, look, you
still
have,
enjoying it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you have a great family.
Grandma and Grandpa are about to celebrate their 57th anniversary this month too, on the 29th. Aunt Jody just told me.
57 years
Yeah, that's awesome.
from the time they met in that bar.
That's good. That's good stuff. That's very good stuff.
But the reason things go along so good over all the years is that you let the lady think they're in charge of everything.
the
Is that the key to a happy marriage? Is that the key to a happy marriage?
I don't know, but
Let them be in charge of everything?
Mama's
talking
always
about-
right.
We're talking about you.
yeah. So rewinding a little bit back into the military life again. What made you pick Navy?
well, I didn't necessarily pick it,
Oh, okay.
but it was the first. There was maybe 2 or 3 blocks away from each other
Right.
Navy, Army.
Yeah, now they got them all in the same buildings.
Yeah. But they were at that time they were. But I just happened to go in the Navy one first, and so I joined the Navy.
I see. Oh. So you're telling me you could have went two more doors down and joined the Air Force, but fate chose the Navy because you opened up the first one, and you decided to stay with that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I had 9 stars on my Korean ribbon. And what I had the United Nations Service Medal,
United Nations Service
Korean
Medal,
ribbon,
Korean ribbon,
Korean War ribbon,
Korean War ribbon,
Good Conduct Medal.
Good Conduct Medal.
Uh,
How did you get the Good Conduct Medal drinking so much beer?
just they didn't care. We didn't really drink that much beer in the Navy,
Oh, okay.
but because we'd only get off the ship one night every month, something like that. But in the armies where we drank, everybody did. The officers, the ones that flew the planes, and 99% of airplane crashes or problems with airplanes was
Pilot error.
Pilot error.
Now, before you joined the Army, taking you way kind of far back, I don't know if you remember this or not, but do you remember your childhood home growing up at all? Do you remember the home that you lived in, that you grew up in when you were in your maybe 10 years old, younger than that?
There's a picture somewhere.
Well, yeah, we were living. Excuse me. We were living in Houston, Texas. And
Was it like a farmland or?
no, it was. We had there was 4 houses on the block,
Okay.
and I don't remember what we paid for rent,
I don't expect you to remember that one.
but we had the most property attached to ours, and we had like 3.5 acres, and everybody else had just room enough to build a house and a garage, and
So under an acre.
yeah.
Okay.
And
What did your dad do for a living?
he was a carpenter,
He was a carpenter.
and but he worked when he worked for the military.
World War One?
No, no.
Two? Couldn't have been two, right?
Mostly during he was a carpenter his whole life. And Joe, how long did Dad live? He died at 78.
February of 72.
Wait a minute. 74.
Huh?
February 74. Brenda was about 3 months, almost 2 months old.
So you got that right?
Yeah, I got that.
But then I come down with this when I was pulling that thing in. I couldn't catch my breath. Took me 45 minutes to get the trash can to the backyard, and so the next morning she took me to the hospital, and I spent a month in the hospital. When I caught double pneumonia while I was there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wasn't wasn't in the hospital at
You're
that
talking
time.
about this
but I
recent surgery, right?
Was, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
But now you're home, sitting up in a chair, watching TV.
they asked me if I wanted to go back to one of the homes where they kept you or go home. And I says, no, I'm not going back to one of them homes. I says, throw me out in the street, I don't care. But I says, I want to go home. So they brought me home.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. This is where you're most comfortable in. So
Yes, yeah. And
you've seen a lot growing up in this house. You've lived your whole life in this house. So
we've been here, yeah. It's paid for. And
yeah.
of course, I used to, when I first got it, I used to borrow money
Mortgages
on the house.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like to buy cars all the time, so I bought a lot of cars.
Yeah, well, I think you said you were making about $35 an hour when you retired.
I was making $37.50. I was
$37.50.
$5 an hour over the highest paid man.
And what year did you retire again?
94.
94.
Yeah,
I was
the year
born.
Brenda
You're-
was born.
Year that my wife was born.
And do you want to know what we were making the first year we were married?
Huh.
He worked at a nail factory and he brought home $40 a week.
Wow.
But
Wow.
they were good to me too.
The nail factory?
Yeah. I kept, I mean, I produced more than anybody else did.
How do you produce nails? Is it through some
Well,
machine
we-
or something? Or
They
Can I help you get that back in?
I just need to go
Would-
back there.
they were T-nails,
T-nails?
not round.
For a
They
nail
were
gun.
T-shaped.
For a nail gun. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And they're in
And
Mhm.
I would, I just was able to produce more than anybody else there,
Okay.
but
Don't worry, it'll be
I
out
would-
in the morning.
stop the machine and put a bigger wheel on it, and it'd make it go faster. And before I got off work, I'd stop it again and put the little one back on. And that's why I was able to produce more than anyone else. But I kept there too. I was the highest paid man there. I kept telling them I want a quarter an hour raise, and they did it till I got up to $2 an hour. I don't remember for sure. I think I started out at I don't remember what I started at.
That's
either.
all right. The
But I asked him for a raise, and he says, no, that's the most we can give you. And so I quit,
mhm.
and I went to work with my brother, and he cut his arm real bad on a power saw. And I took him to the doctor, and then went back to work for him, and he gave me that quarter raise when I come back. But I told him, you don't have to do that, because I'm not going to stay here. I said, I'm going to leave and somewhere, make more money.
Yeah.
And
Is that
So
when
I
you went to
did.
the bulldozing company?
well, I did. I don't remember what it was now, but before I went on the bulldozer, I worked another job, but it was on the same site where the bulldozers were running.
Oh, okay.
I was a laborer.
Like a handyman kind of thing. Just
Yes.
whatever they needed, you did
yeah,
it.
Yeah, I was a laborer. And the guy I was working with, he was running a bulldozer. And I says, I'd like to get on one of those bulldozers. And he says, the first chance I get, I'll get you on one. And about 3 months later, he got me on one. And what, 2 or 3 days after I got on it, he quit and went to another job. But
Then it was your
I picked it
position
right
from
up.
there
I never
on.
went to school for it or nothing. But I got to where I couldn't even quit. You know, I mean, I'd do a better job than anybody else could do.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, what did you just like? Did you like level land? What was your guys'
Well,
most?
when I first went to work running a bulldozer, we were lowering the tracks through the city of Alhambra
Oh, okay.
so that we held up cars so long that trains passing that we moved the track out and tore the old ones out and dropped them down in the ground 35 feet and built bridges back across it so that
So that they can
yeah,
commute.
the trains go through it. They didn't have to stop the cars anymore.
That's awesome. So you're telling me that you helped connect two cities together, so automobiles and people can commute between the communities together.
Yeah, after I was on that job for what, 2.5, maybe 3 years to cut that, lower the tracks. But we'd work 11 hours a day, 5 days a week, and 8 hours a day I was pushing dirt into the bulldozer, into a bucket to load trucks to get the dirt out of the way. And then 3 hours a day, all of the straight time and time and a half, I was working 11 hours a day. Anything over 11 was double time,
Mhm.
so they didn't want to pay double time.
Yeah.
But that's where I learned, how to run a bulldozer, because when I was cutting the slopes, I could cut 6 foot down and 10 foot in length. I could vary 1/2 an inch. And so it was that's where I really learned to
Yeah.
run a bulldozer. But I had good grade checkers. I'd get down to a certain point, and then they'd drive a stake in the ground, and when I come to that stake, I knew I was where I had to be.
Did you know how to maintain your bulldozer too? Did you know how to work on it, or not really?
I used to grease them
Oh, okay.
and fill them with diesel fuel,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't.
Never like took it apart and changed
No,
a
no.
bolt thing on it. Okay.
No,
In the when you first went into the Navy's office to join the Navy, did they make you do the ASVAB test? Did they test you before you joined?
yeah, they test me.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
but it was one reason I never got higher than a seaman. It was fleet-wide competition. Anybody, if they got a higher score than I did, they had to get the stripe instead of me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Very high competition to get that.
yeah. And in the Army, they didn't care. I was considered the best mechanic, and I just
So
went up real fast.
did you ever go to in Germany, other than the lake that you went to? Did you go to Berlin or anything like that?
I was not. I could have went.
Oh, you
But,
could have went.
I just didn't care to go.
So
but,
did they just ask you like,
I-
hey, Hey, Sergeant, do you want to
I went through
go?
Berlin on the way to where I was stationed,
Okay.
but and where I was stationed, it was I think it was maybe 15 miles to France.
15 miles to France.
And Germany, everything was always kept clean, and
Even after the war? Oh, okay.
they kept everything real, neat and clean. And we'd go to a club in France, just over the line, and it was so dirty. I just didn't care about going to Paris or anything because it was filthy.
It was
At
filthy.
the time I was there, it was
Yeah.
just dirty.
Okay.
But it's probably not like that now. But
So
it was
can you
then.
name off some of the places you've been in Germany then?
Well, I was there. I went to London, Switzerland,
Switzerland, huh?
Sweden, Austria, Italy, and I used to have a picture of the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Oh, you used to have a picture
I was
of that.
standing on the top of it, and they took a picture of it. But later, after several years, they put a thing around it, cement thing around it, so it couldn't topple over.
Oh, okay.
But at the time I was up there, it didn't have that on it.
The what were you doing in Switzerland?
Just
Just on the way?
vacation.
Oh, okay, vacation.
Just go and leave, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And when I was in the Army, though, they wanted us to travel around.
Was that just so the more American presence was there, or why did they want
Yeah,
you to travel around?
Yeah, they wanted to get acquainted with
Oh, okay. Yeah.
all the people, and
Yeah.
but it was good duty.
Yeah, we got to keep in mind that this time there's a lot of that, German scientists that were still alive that came after the war, and I believe that the Allied forces were going around the European countries touring to get all that information that the Germans have gathered
Yeah.
previously. Yeah.
Uh,
Rounding up the scientists and etc.
uh, if I'd owned a car, they'd pay for all my gas just to travel around, but I didn't at the time. So,
Did you get to see the Autobahn?
oh yeah, there was no speed limit
Yeah.
on the autobahns, but
Yeah. That's after the Autobahn was freshly made too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right after Hitler made it.
yeah, it was. I had a good military life.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. So, on the other side of the military life, what's the story that landed you in the brig?
Uh, that was in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force. for
Oh,
a
it's in
while.
the Air Force.
And they lied to me when I went in. They says, I can guarantee you won't have any. I says, I don't want to join if I have to be around basic training at all. And he says, I can guarantee you won't be around basic trainings. Well, I was living in the barracks with them.
Okay.
And I didn't have to do what they did, but we'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and go to class, and get out and be off duty by 11. And I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even go in and change my clothes till after 3 o'clock because I was living with basic training.
We live in a basic training.
So they advised me, he says, had a lawyer that a friend of mine, his dad was a lawyer, and he called him and told him what was going on. And he says, when you get out, he says, get yourself a lawyer and sue them. And he says, you'll get enough money from them that you'll never have to work again. He said, I don't care if you live to be 100. You'll never have to work again as long as you live. But I didn't want to sue them, so.
Okay.
But, and my,
You went AWOL, I think, right?
yes, but my 6 months hard labor
6 months of hard labor.
was, I restricted it to the base. I could go anywhere on the base anytime I wanted. I had to be back by 8 o'clock at night. I had to be back by 6 o'clock at night. But from 10 in the morning till 6 at night, I could go anywhere on the military installation I wanted.
What did hard labor consist of?
Hard labor mean
They just made you do a grueling lot of work?
well, you'd you'd cut grass, you'd do whatever they wanted to.
Okay.
Whatever they needed you to do, you stuck doing it.
Okay.
But mine was just, they turned it into restriction because they lied to me.
Okay.
But and I was advised to sue them, but I
You never sued him
no.
because you didn't want him. That's good. That's honorable, though.
Then I went to work on heavy equipment after I got out, and somebody had cut. It had things for you to hold on to while you was climbing up on it,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody cut it off, and it was real greasy on the steps, and I fell off, and my arm got hung up on that.
Oh, is
And
this
I
the
couldn't get
MAME
off
that
of it.
they?
They had to
and-
take me up and take me off of it
Yeah.
and take me to hospital. And
You were impelled.
yeah, I had 32 stitches in my arm, but it missed my main artery by about maybe a eighth of an inch.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd have bled to death before they get me to the doctor.
Well, fortunately, you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that when?
Well, that's very good. I'm glad that I was able to get a lot of that on there.